All right, shalom, shalom. First and foremost, we want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Racha HaKodash. Double honor to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Peace, love, salutations, and blessings to the house of David, which is the elect. And just coming back with another Sabbath Sanctuary episode, 62, to the Spirit and Pop Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai. This one is entitled The Final Salaki, The Final Act, Hell on Earth. All right. And the final act, because everything that is playing out is predestined. It's a script, right? And we have the scriptures as the Lord's story, as we often use that analogy of everything that is actually playing out on the earth is everything that the Lord already had preordained, predestined, before the foundations of the earth were established, right? And the Lord has given us the blessing and the mercy to be able to disseminate this information, be able to see it, understand it, and to warn his elect. Although we do warn the whole world, we know that only the elect are going to take heed. But it's our reasonable service to basically come out and say these things so that the elect can hear this information and repent. But we're in a point in the time where we're in the Lord's judgment, right? As it says in the book of Second Ezra, the ninth chapter, that when you start to see all of these things, it is the very same time wherein the highest will begin to visit the world which he made, right? And the visitation of Yahweh Bashim Shai, that word visitation goes into punishment, right? It goes into judgment, which the Lord is bringing his wrath, his indignation upon this age, just like in the time of Noah, right? Yahweh Shai said, as in the days of Noah, so shall it be also in the days of the Son of Man. And it's because of what? Because of the hearts of men is fully set in them to do evil, right? The imagination is evil continually. So the wrath of the Lord is brought because of the wickedness of the people. Okay, and as we are seeing everything playing out, you got the war, you got the pestilences, you got the sword, right, and you got the famine. All of these, the four sword judgments of Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai that he brings, to judge. All of these things are happening at the same time, which that can only let you know, all right, if you were able to discern the signs of the times that we're in the end, right? That's the conclusion of the whole situation, is that we're in the end of this age, right? People losing their jobs, right, left and right. Gas prices, energy prices, inflation, everything's going up. Everybody's lamenting. Right now, people are afraid of this whole next HIV situation, because hey, we've been warning through the spirit of the Lord that there was going to be another lockdown that was coming, right? And it was going to be worse than the first one. We said that was a test that they were doing, right? That was a mass live test that they did with the whole CV. And the next one, and they showed it. We showed the information of them, these devils saying it themselves, right? BG, Bill Gates of hell, speaking about there's going to be another one. You had Klaus Schwab. He spoke about, this is just the small blimp, and the next thing is going to be a big ass, crisis. They spoke about the poly crisis, all these things. So you can't say that you wasn't warned. You can't say that you didn't know. Only thing you can say is that you didn't take heed, right? And when you find yourself caught in the hell, that's when you're gonna have people wanting to try to figure out a way out of it, right? But just like the analogy of a hurricane or some type of catastrophe, you're supposed to leave before it comes, right? You can't try to leave a hurricane, and when you're in the eye of the storm, at that point, it's over. And that's what people are not. That's what a lot of people that are blind are going into, right? They're in about to find themselves in the eye of the storm, and then at that point, they're going to look to for safety, but there is not going to be any. So first thing I'll get, and then I'll pass it, is the book of Psalms, chapter 119, verse 126. And it reads, "It is time for thee, Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shai, to work, for they have made void thy law." Okay, when you go into that word work in the Hebrew, it means to what? To accomplish, right? To do work, um, to observe, to attend to, right? And so ultimately to accomplish. And the scriptures tells you that the Lord is going to accomplish, his purpose, right? Nothing is going to stay his hand, right? When he sends his judgment out, nothing is going to be able to turn it back. I believe that's in Second Ezra, the 16th chapter, right? The mighty Lord sends the plagues, and who is he that can drive them away? Okay, so y'all brothers got it. We can just get rolling.
And I got a precept going along with the Zaquan was saying, right? Because now we're pretty much entering into that point where um, we mentioned this during the CV, the time of the CV, that it was a time where you had to use wisdom, right? And as we get closer and closer, you can imagine the walls closing in more and more and more, and eventually it gets to the point where you don't have any more wiggle room to use wisdom, right? There's no way to wisdom your way out of a situation like that in terms of being able to function in this society using this world, but not abusing it anymore, right? It's going to get to the point where you have to just directly step out on faith, and that's where the Lord is pushing us to through these events that are taking place over here. Because when it comes down to um, a situation where, like back then, years ago, something that wasn't as fatal, mortality rate not as high, but yet it was made to seem like it was. It's different. There are certain people that had it recovered X, Y, and Z. But when you actually start to, when the propaganda is no longer on the TV, but it's through people seeing it with their bare eyes and recording it on social media, and they're like, "Yo, like this shit is this shit is real out here." It's gonna be a different kind of fear, right? That sets into people, where it's not going to be that, hey, we need to tell you to stay home. You won't be the one. I'm not trying to even lead a script because I'm all afraid and shit. And in that time, you're going to understand that it's through the faith of Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahweh Shai that we're going to actually be taken care of and preserved, because you could be amongst people who have been exposed and whatnot and be perfectly fine. Remember, the Lord is the one who controls all of these things, right? So along with that, the whole energy crisis, which is still ongoing, by the way, right? And we said that it's when they started, the fact that they gave you a timeline when they started was their way of telling you that, yeah, this is going to be indefinite. Don't worry about it. The timeline is to set expectations that are not going to be met, but at least they're going to be there in your head and you're going to hope for it. And then as time goes on, here you are. You got brothers paying $79 to fill up a tank, fill up their gallon and shit. That's crazy work, you know? So people are starting to feel that along with this. And as these new things, like right now, recently, what just happened? You had the release of these so-called UFO files. And then this attention switching to this whole HV out here, HIV, jumping up on top of the screen. Meanwhile, there's still this whole energy crisis going on. And the thing is, yeah, your attention may shift to one, but it doesn't mean the other stops or ceases to exist. It still keeps on going. So you're experiencing this. That's why they called it a poly crisis. Okay, multiple things at the same time. You can't even focus on one. You can't even focus on just the other. As you're trying to make provisions for one, another one is hitting you here. And these crises are like avalanches, right? Like, or snowball effect. One breeds and spawns like 10 others in itself, right? Like, look at all the things that happen when there's chaos. And the chaos could be started by one thing, but yet it leads into this, it leads into that, it leads into this, and you feel the winds of that effect all around. So we're literally going to be in a time where you need faith, 100%, and understanding how the Lord operates, how judgment works. And people are going to be afraid. They're going to be crying, they're going to be scared, they're going to be all of those things happening in real time and not knowing what to do and how to basically make it out of it. This is a precept here in the book of Jeremiah, chapter 11, verse 11. It says, "Therefore, thus saith the Lord Yahweh, behold, I will bring upon them, which I will bring evil upon them, which they shall not be able to escape. And though they shall cry unto me, I will not hearken unto them." And that's the thing. People are going to cry onto all types of different gods. But this is what the Lord said. Verse 12, "Then shall the cities of Judah and the inhabitants of Jerusalem go and cry unto the gods unto whom they offer incense, but they shall not save them at all in the time of their trouble." And that's when that regret and true fear is going to sink in. When whatever you thought you had faith in is not working. And now you have zero options and zero avenues to fall back on. that's when that true fear is going to set in. And the true comfort of faith is really going to set in. The reason the Lord called us the comforter, you're going to experience down a whole nother level when you're literally in the midst of destruction, walking through the valley of the shadow of death and actually fearing no evil. That's when that psalm is going to go from just like an actual psalm to a real-time testimonial experience. Seeing brothers doing testimony, yo, I was literally in the middle of this and I was perfectly fine. Kind of like the three holy children in the middle of the fire. And it'll be different kinds of situations where we walk out unscathed, unharmed, perfectly fine, not even afraid. In the testimony of the three holy children, it said not even the smell of smoke was on them after they came out from the midst of that furnace. Not even a hair was singed. So when the Lord protects, he fully protects. When he provides, he fully provides. So when you have faith, you got to fully have faith. You brothers got it.
Hey, it said in that testimony in Apocrypha that there was a cool wind that was around them. So imagine that, not only are they in fire, but the fire is not they're not feeling the fire. The Lord turned it to it being cool. So it's like there was an AC while fire's all around them. So just to add on to your point, how the Lord gives in abundance, right? He's not going to just give it to you, give you a protection like for like as a little bit. It's going to be something out of the world. But just want to add that.
Hey, cut, and that's why it's called supernatural, right? It's beyond the natural. It's beyond the natural senses or things that make sense to the human mind, right? Because the Lord far exceeds that, right? That's why He's known as the Most High, right? So those of us who have our faith in the Lord, we expect to see these supernatural things, all right, become normal. It's just gonna be that's just what it is because that's what the Lord does, right? But going back to the point brothers was making, all right, because we're in the time of something known as a polycrisis now. How do you end up at a polycrisis is having multiple black swan events, right? Black swan events are events that leads to polycrisis. If it's things that happen at a specific time, like what we're having now, right? Having a once in a lifetime, once in a generational type of crisis that happens back to back to back out of nowhere like that, that's what America is about to be facing. Okay, and it's almost like a compound effect, right? You have going all the way back to 9/11, you got a whole bunch of stuff that they laid the groundwork for down the future, for the later down the line for the future, right? Including FEMA, DOD, DHS, and so on and so forth, right? When it comes to the security side of things. And then you got, of course, the 2008 financial situation where now you're talking about the economy, right? How money and the system of money works. There's some type of shake that happened that laid the groundwork for future things like Bitcoin and cryptocurrency and so on and so forth. And then of course, you fast forward to 2020, you had the whole CV pandemic, you know what, right? And that was another so-called black swan event that shook the system and changed the world and way in which we do things, right? So now we become more technologically advanced, right, and technologically reliant, right? So now people depend so much more on technology to live lives, right? To actually make money, you use all these app-based jobs, right? Now these things have become the norm. So there's going to be another event, and we kept saying, as a point you mentioned, how over the years we've been saying that in order for them to take it to the next step and achieve their ultimate goal, okay, of having that so-called New World Order, having everyone so-called microchip, it's going to take another event, another major event that combines all the other major events that happened that was looked at as black swan events, right? And all these things happening all at the same time, you will get people to bow the knee. Okay, if you have a financial collapse alone, based on how you manage it or mismanage it, you can arrive at a certain outcome just by financial collapse alone. How much more that with a cyber attack, with a health crisis, energy crisis, all these things at the same time, right? And then what they say said that the future, the norm of the future is always the possibility of some type of global war, the outbreak of a global war. So that's also in the minds of people on a daily basis. So we're looking at a future of extreme chaos and instability. That's why in the book of Luke, the 21st chapter, it talks about perplexity of the nations. Okay, everything, uproars of the people, all these different things. What causes that? It's the things that we're seeing right now. Okay, and I have this real quick here. There's an overview of a black swan. It says here, A black swan event is an extremely rare, unpredictable occurrence with severe, widespread consequences that is often inappropriately rationalized with hindsight as having been inevitable. All right. So again, going back to those moments that we mentioned, going into the major events that's happened in American history that's laid the groundwork for now. And not to mention, we are in the 250th year of America's empire from 1776 to 2026. And we mentioned how they will play on that because all these are all going into numerology. These are numbers. These are high level dates that they have in their so-called New World Order agenda. So they're going to play on that. Okay. So we've been seeing these things playing out and we say, yo, through the spirit, this is the year they're going to play on that. There's the book of Matthew, chapter 24, verse 6. It says that ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that ye be not troubled, for all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. And that very last phrase, but the end is not yet, is very key. Okay, because we have seen the wars and rumors of wars. But that's why the Lord mentioned that you're going to hear about wars and rumors of wars. There's going to be times where we're going to be hearing news. Oh, Iran said they're going to do this, this, and that. And then we speculate, yo, if they do that, you know what's going to happen to this, right? So these are all rumors. It may happen, it may not happen. But we understand this, the path of prophecy. We understand the way it goes. We understand the what's the word for it? The sequential order of prophecy. We understand that. So we don't panic when we see these things. People are like, oh, I gotta invest in this. You got people saying, I gotta leave the country, I gotta sell all my property, I gotta go buy and invest in something else and this and that. They're all planning based on current events, but they don't really understand that these are things that leads to a bigger event where all you niggas lose, man. All right, you're not gonna win. There's all the rules to get you to accept what's actually happening. Okay, so verse 7 it says, for nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and there shall be famines and pestilences and earthquakes in diverse places. All these are the beginning of sorrows. So that's the key right there that Yahushua mentioned. So we have seen all these things that the Lord mentioned. Every single key word right here, we've seen. Now we're about to enter into the phase of pestilence. And these are all steps that leads to, like Yahushua said, the beginning of sorrows, man. Okay? So these are the stages of the beginning. How much more when the sorrows actually hit? That's what we're saying. It's not going to take another 5 to 10 years. These are few months. You got some experts are saying, because nowadays these experts, you can't even take them seriously. Them niggas is getting baffled by the things that's going on. So they can't even know what's going on. All right. But for those who are still credible to a degree, they're all saying the same thing that we've been saying. That's how we know that they're credible, because they're matching everything lined up with prophecy and saying, yo, with the way things are going, expect a all-time high in famines, like hunger like never before. It's going to be wiping out people by the millions. Okay. These type of diseases that's coming out right now, expected to take out mad people. Why? Because people's immune systems is all fucked up anyway from the J that they took 4 or 5 years ago. And we said that they had a 5-year window. Well, the devil's here to collect his souls. Y'all ready? Yeah, brothers got it.
Yeah, I had a precept to add to you. Add to your point. This is Acts 5:18. Woe unto you that desire the day of the Lord. To what end is it for you? The day of the Lord is darkness and not light. In the NLT, it reads, what sorrow awaits you who say, if only the day of the Lord were here. You have no idea what you are wishing for. That day will bring darkness, not light. So, many of our people, and, this applies to Israelites, but, we can apply it to all the inhabitants of the earth, because many of you people are claiming to serve the Lord. These heathens, these Christian evangelicals are claiming that they want to see the day of the Lord. The general said that this war with Iran is going to take them into Armageddon. All right. So basically what they're telling their troops is that, yeah, you're going to go out there and be slaughtered out there in the so-called Middle East, for this conflict. And in a sense, they're correct, because it is going to be Armageddon. It's just not going to be a victory for them. It's going to be a victory for Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai and his men. All right. But the point being that many people claim to want the day of the Lord, to desire the day of the Lord, but they don't know they don't even fully comprehend what that day actually means. So it says here, as if a man did flee from a lion and a bear met him, or went into the house and leaned his hand on the wall, and a serpent bit him. You see, so that means what? You go, that's the saying, out of the frying pan into the fire. You go from a bad situation to a worse situation, to where you will wish that you were back in the days of the early demic, back in 2020. People will wish and hope that they were in the year 2021. Like, damn, that was the good old days, man. When compared to what they're about to unleash, because they're not just going to do one thing this time. Like the brother's been saying, the Black Swan, the poly crisis, they have the energy squeeze simultaneously with all these diseases. And in the early days of the demic, they kind of had to play it up, you know, and hype it up. But now the way that they have, like the brother, like you said, Aharon, that they have weakened people's immune system to where now people really are getting sick and dying, man, you know? And that's because of the poison. They poison the food. They put the yabba dabba doo juice in the food. All right. Everything, man. They're poisoning us on every level. So it says, though, I'll read it again, as if a man did flee from a lion and a bear met him, or went into the house and leaned his hand on the wall and a serpent bit him. So you can imagine fleeing from the lion was the first demic. And then the bears meeting you with the energy crisis and the Iran war. All right. And you notice they like to do a lot of this when Trump is in office, man. You know, that's the guy that they like to use to implement a lot of this shit. So the point being that these people think that they're going to escape and they desire the day of the Lord. All right. And they're going to be in a time where it is going to be hell on earth, to where you escape from one calamity and another calamity meets you right after that. All right. You escape from that calamity and another calamity meets you right after that. So it's going to be no escape. Okay. But the elect is going to be preserved through all this. All right. It says, shall not the day of the Lord be darkness and not light, even very dark and no brightness in it? And it's going to be a day of darkness unto you because you ain't living right. All right. And you haven't repented unto Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai. And these people, we know, because of all these great calamities that surround them, they're going to fold and they're going to take that MOTB. They're going to take that device in their body so that they can buy and sell and continue in this society, not having been given the gift of faith in Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai to believe that there's going to be a deliverance from all this, okay? That Yahushai, a so-called black man from the tribe of Judah, is going to crack those clouds and he's going to come back and clean this earth up and annihilate this wicked kingdom of America, Babylon the Great. You have to have faith to believe that. And that faith is a gift that not everybody has. Okay. So you see now they're rolling out the UFO files. And, you know, obviously we've been known about the chariots. Okay. We didn't need them to do disclosure, but this is another thing that's psychological warfare on the minds of the people, because Esau comes with questions more than he comes with answers. He just throws some shit out there, you know, like UFOs, but have no solution or no explanation of it. Like, oh, what is this? And then you look on Fox News and they're talking about UFO files and alien life and all this confusion, as opposed to going into it and explaining that these are the chariots from the script, from the Holy Bible, and that they're coming to wipe out their kingdom. All right. But you notice how they're trying to kind of slowly integrate that into their so-called Christian evangelical doctrine, because they're bringing all these pastors in to speak on UFO disclosure and how that fits into a biblical understanding. But really what they're trying to do is divert from the real men of the Lord and the true message, so that you will go to these false pastors to try to get an understanding about all these things. Because the real 100% doctrine of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai, there's an explanation for all these things. All right. There is no, you know, in the sense of there are mysteries that the Lord has hidden, but in terms of what we need pertaining to salvation and the things that's going on the earth, we have 100% disclosure on those things through the Holy Spirit. All right. So there's everything has been revealed unto the Lord's servants, the prophets. Okay. The Lord's secret. And part of that secret is the strangeness of his salvation, which is going to come by the way of those chariots, which are those so-called UFOs. So what they're doing is just to stir up more confusion and bring about more questions than there are answers. But y'all got it.
Yeah, with the UFO disclosure, so-called, I seen there was an interview, guy was on Fox News, and he was asking one of the congressmen about like the information. And the guy said, you know, basically that the information that they brought out was just really really not even, the I think it's what, the holy crap moment or something like that. Um, and in another video, the anchor, he was basically asking, he was like, "Yo, like if they come out with this information and it's like something that is I guess like undeniable." They said that this is going to be with just every news, news media. Everybody's only going to be talking about this. And when he said that, it made me think like this is like how you just said, it's a big psychological, operation on the minds of the people, because if they do come out with something like that where they show quote unquote undeniable proof, and it's like, yo, there are definitely, they don't even call them aliens no more, they switched the term to interdimensional beings, which is interesting, because you had I think JD Vance, he mentioned that I don't think they're aliens, I think they're demons. And then you had the other guy spoke about the Ezekiel 1. So they're moving from this whole alien uh notion or rhetoric to now it's something spiritual, which, as we know, the scriptures tells you that these devils in this earth, they're going to fight against the Lord, and they're going to, try to present it as if it is an actual, invasion, right? And somebody that we gotta, or a force that they have to fight against. Because if Yahweh Shai is coming back, and I get back to my point, Yahweh Shai comes back and they see him, what are they going to see? They're not going to see, green man with big eyes, and he's going to look like a man, right? The angels are going to look like men. So they're calling them interdimensional beings, because these are men that clearly are not terrestrial, but they appear to look, like other, men, but obviously on a way higher level. So they already have the people's minds geared toward this. All right, this is, international security. These vehicles obviously are doing maneuvers that we can't replicate and we can't do. So they're already gearing the people's mind to look at it as some sort of threat. But the guy with the anchor said that this is if this information then comes out, that's going to be the only thing talked about. That's what they want, right? They want people to be distracted from these other Black Swan events. Because even when Trump a couple weeks ago, he mentioned it, before they brought it out. When he mentioned it, he was like, "Yeah, I seen some things, and when we bring it out, you guys are going to have fun with it. It's definitely going to captivate your minds, and you're going to be, really astonished and captivated by this." You use that word captivate. And that's what they want. They want to have people's minds captivated on this, because now that means that it could have them focus on this and not focus on everything else. But that's why the Lord, and the Lord is so beautiful, because he covered everything in the scriptures. So everything that happens, there's no type of surprise for us in the sense of what this devil is doing. Because what did Yahweh Shai say? In the book of Matthew, the 24th chapter, he said that when they say these things, don't, basically, let me get it real quick. Matthew 24, verse 23, it says, "Then if any man say unto you, Lo, Mashiach, or the anointed, here is the anointed, or Mashiach, or there, believe it not. For there shall arise false Mashiachims, are anointed ones, and false prophets, and shall shew great signs and wonders, insomuch that if it were possible, they shall deceive the very elect." Okay, so using, and I think I mentioned this in the video before, they've had all this information. I think they said since 1947, which is, very ironic. The year before they established the state of 48ers, that they had all this information, but they wait until now to quote unquote disclose it, when they have deepfake technology, where they have AI, where they have all these other things that could make the deception more believable. Because they didn't have that type of, technology back then to do so. So these things, and a lot of people obviously get their information now from social media, from the internet. So they could just put out a lot of fake Trump fake news. And it showed you that in what was that, in The Boys, one of the episodes of the new season, where they were wanted to push a narrative. So the government, which Homelander was, basically the ruler over, they used AI to basically push a narrative that was favorable for them. And although you hear Trump and these people speak about fake news, fake news, fake news, they're going to be using these technology, this technology, as it says in Second Thessalonian, to make people believe a lie. And they're going to believe this lie because they didn't want to receive the love of the truth. And it's because ultimately the Lord has them blinded, right? The truth, the Lord is not worried and concerned about who is giving the truth, or who is bringing the truth. It's if it's true or not. That's why he put us low. That's why he made us, nobodies, because only those that actually hear his voice are going to understand it, and they're not going to care about who it's coming from. But the majority of this world, right, as it says in the book of Sirach, if a rich man says something, they esteem it high. But if a poor man says something, they discredit it. But that's how the Lord set it up. He didn't give this to the wise and the prudent, but he gave it unto babes, as it was seemed so unto the Father. Right. So go back to verse 25 in Matthew 24. It says, "Behold, I have told you before." And that's once again the beauty of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua, that he's told us these things before they happen. So we're not over here astonished and amazed, even with the Epstein stuff, right? Everybody was so, endowed with that and trying to go there. We wasn't, oh man, that's crazy. No, we knew this was what they were doing. As a matter of fact, they do even more insidious and odious things that are being shown. You see? But even the small information that came out, people were so captivated by it. Okay. But the Lord told us these things before it happened. So it's not a surprise to us. Like I said before, this is the final act, like a script. Then you already know what's going to happen when you already have the script. When you already know, the first set, the second set, third set, you're not going to be surprised when, something takes place. It says, "Wherefore, if they shall say unto you, Behold, he is in the desert, go not forth. Behold, he is in secret chambers, believe it not. For as the lightning cometh out of the east and shineth even unto the west, so shall also the coming of the Son of Man be." Right? Because they could try to use this to make it seem like, a second coming of who they call Jesus Christ. All of these things, man. Whatever. Remember, this devil is at his end. So he's going to use, as it says, all signs and all types of lying wonders, right? He's going to use everything at his disposal to try to deceive the world and even the elect. And as the Lord said, if it were possible, it would be so believable that the elect would believe it, but the elect are not going to believe it because the elect hang their faith on the word of the Lord, not on what this devil is saying. So yeah, that's it. That's all I had.
Yeah, I was going to say too that a big part of their deception they're going to be trying to use is that so-called Project Bluebeam, right? So that's something to look out for, especially now. All of a sudden, like Zaquan, you said, what's the reason why all of a sudden they want to, review all these so-called UFO files? Like it's just like very interesting timing, right? It's all part of the putting in so much information where people are overwhelmed. They don't even know what to look at, where to look to. That's all part of Albert Pike's plan, right? About how the people are going to be so overwhelmed with the shit that's going to be going on, where they're not going to know where to render their adoration, right? So all that Project Bluebeam, all these UFO files is all, especially DJ Vance using the terminology, all demons, right? It's you're starting to steer into the realm of good and evil, heavenly versus wicked, that kind of thing. So that's all biblical stuff. So now they start to shift attention. You got all this Trump stuff, depicting himself to be the chosen one and all these different things, God manifests, all this bullshit, right? So these are all things that they're doing. Oh, we're going to the Third World War to usher in the return of the Messiah, and we're going to Armageddon. They're not using, Hinduism to push these things. They're not using Judaism to push these things. They're not using Islam. They're using Christianity. They're using the power of so-called Christianity, all right, to bring about these things. So, it's very interesting. They called in these pastors, all right, I forget where they took them to go talk about these so-called UFO files being revealed and how they're going to teach it to the church. We're going to be sitting right here watching to see what they're going to say, and then we're going to tell the truth about it, because it's all going to be BS anyway. It's all going to be lies and BS anyway. All right, so we're going to be sitting right here as the sentinels, as the watchmen, and we're going to be watching everything, decoding everything they're putting out there, man. All right, because we're not here to mislead people like they do. All right, but y'all brothers, guys, I just want to say that quick point.
Yeah, Khan, you mentioned something about that in the vision in Ezra had, right, in 2nd Ezra 13. And it says in 13 and 33, and when all the people hear his voice. Every man shall in their own land leave the battle they have one with another. And that lets us know that when Yahushua returns, they're already going to be at war. So it's interesting that now that you already have the beginning stages of this war with Iran and the US and these other nations getting involved, they're talking about France and other European nations colliding together to come over there in an operation to open the strait. As you have that developing, they're now releasing, these files. And like the Zaquan was saying, they were saying that what they released today is really just like a drop in the bucket, and like the holy crap moment hasn't even come yet. Meaning that there are certain things in there in those files that when the public sees, it's going to be like, fear, intrigue, all of these things at once. And I was saying there in a lesson I did that a part of what they do with that is to muddy the waters on what the truth actually is, because even when they were discrediting the proof of UFOs and extraterrestrial life and so on, there was still a whole bunch of theories about what they could be, where they're coming from, and so on and so forth. Are they real? Are they not? But now, with all this information coming out, there's going to be that much more rhetoric, not just from governments and the mainstream media, but from people themselves, which is going to be more voices as opposed to fewer voices, including ours, concerning what these really are. And this is priming the people. It's exposing their minds to this, like this Kwan mentioned, about being ready to encounter some foreign threat, because that's how they're going to phrase it. They're not interested in phrasing the Lord's return as a pleasant visit. No, they're going to make it seem like this is a threat. This is an invasion, and we need to defend against it. That's how they show you in all these movies that they come up with. They always show the extraterrestrial visitors as some form of danger or threat, and that's true. Zechariah the 5th chapter talks about that. They are going to be a danger and a threat, because what you're doing here is wicked, and they're coming here to stop that. But obviously, Esau's not going to come out and say, "Yeah, I'm the wicked and that's the righteous," and they come in to actually set things in a good state. Hell no, he ain't going to say that. He's going to flip it upside down. Newsflash: when you watch a lot of these movies, sometimes the good guys are really the bad guys, and the bad guys are really the good guys. When you actually listen to what these evil supervillains and these genius villains actually talk about in their plans for the world, it's like, realistically, they got a point. You know what I'm saying? Realistically, they might be right. But from the perspective of how the story is written, you got to support the Professor Xavier's and so on and so forth. And those are the good guys. But when you look at what's really going on, you're like, no, it's flipped. And it's the same thing they're doing in this reality now. So it's going to be interesting to see what they end up releasing at the same time as they prime the people for all these things that are going on. And this is what the prophets saw, right? They saw pestilence. Yahushua himself said it, right? After the wars and the statement of wars and rumors of wars, he mentioned earthquakes, famines, and pestilence in diverse places, right? Earthquakes in diverse places. And we're seeing all of those happening now. So really, a polycrisis is prophesied as part of Jacob's trouble in the scriptures. And when you read different verses by different prophets, some of them saw the intensity of different things, but it all culminates to the same time period. So that's why it's hell on earth. You brothers got it.
I just wanted to, Salaki, I got you, Ash, but I just wanted to add this right here. This came out, and we've done videos on it before. This came out back in January of this year, where you had this former senior financial analyst of the Bank of England warned that official disclosure of alien life could trigger a severe financial crisis and potential economic collapse. Now, as Haran mentioned before about the Black Swans event, remember their ultimate goal is to transform the financial system, right, to a digital payment system, right, which is why we always speak about the MOTB, right. When you look in the scriptures, there's so many different prophecies and things and events that are major, but the scripture speaks about the mark of the beast for a reason, because that is going to categorically shift how people have been operating on the earth for generations when it comes to what the system is all about, right? Living in a buy sell market capitalistic society, everybody has already been their minds have been geared toward this is the way that you live, that you buy and sell, that you have to give an exchange of well, it used to be actual physical dollars, but now people swipe whatever. But that is a mindset that people have as a normal thing. And what these devils want is to be able to use that and weaponize that to bring in a system to where they actually have complete control over your ability to do so, and therefore have complete control over you. And this is why they speak about CBDCs or stable coins, not call it stable coins. It's the same thing, but they speak about these things that says that what it's trackable, right? It's programmable, right? It basically they'll be able to cut it off if you're not a loyal citizen, all these things. So the fact that they have these certain events coming up, and they have people like her saying that in a disclosure of an alien, quote unquote alien life would bring a severe financial crisis, that's exactly what they desire to happen, right? And a lot of people, they don't look at it like that. They don't make this correlation to this being that. They already know, right? They run these simulations. I believe it was what Project Looking Glass, where they have their left-handed whatever enchantments, whatever that they do, that they run a whole bunch of different types of simulations. They even showed you that in the Avengers movie with Doctor Strange, right? He was a sorcerer where he had the ability to run a bunch of different scenarios to find out what scenario would work. That's what these devils do, right? Doctor Strange is literally Esau, the high priest of Esau on the left hand side, right? Being using witchcraft and technology combined to create a certain outcome. But it says here, McCall believes that the United States is in a multi-year process of declassifying information about non-human intelligence. Now that's interesting as well, because she said this is a multi-year thing, but came back in January, and now we're here in May, and now they're about to just release everything. So that timeline got sped up a whole very quickly. It says, which, if confirmed, would cause ontological shock, a sudden, deep shock to humanity's understanding of reality. Now, who else talked about shocking the system, right? That was Klaus Schwab. You got to shock the system. It says impact, economic impact. She warns this could trigger massive market volatility, bank runs, a collapse of payment systems, and civil unrest as investors panic or lose confidence in traditional institutions and government-backed assets. And you already see how the market is not even connected to really, what was really going on in reality. It's already being manipulated, right? You got somebody that is being quote unquote investigated for being a insider, right? Who's been trading oil right before Trump makes some statement. So it's all manipulated. These devils are playing with people's mind, right, and their money. It says action urged. McCall wrote to the Bank of England Governor Andrew Bailey, urging the central bank to include alien disclosure as a serious, low probability, high impact scenario in its contingency planning and operational resilience framework. So I just wanted to bring this up because once again, this information went, you asked, especially with Jake, but majority of Babylonians period probably never even heard of this person, probably never seen this article in any of this type of warning. But these are the things that these devils use and are going to actually implement on the earth, while majority of people are just out here being folly, being foolish, being blind. And this is why the scriptures tells you that the knowledge and wisdom and understanding is going to be a stability of thy time, right? Couple that with the faith of the Lord, because we already are ahead of the curve because we're watching for these things. We already have the knowledge of this possibility, right? You have people that don't even know why gas is going up. Right? You have people that that are traveling, and they'll go check airline prices one week, and then the next week, why has it jumped so much? They have no clue what is actually taking place, and that's how you know that they're dead. When the Lord speaks about these people being dead, you see it in real life, right? That although they're alive and breathing, there's nothing up here. Their minds are dull. Okay, but you got it.
Just want to add on to what the brother Bukwal was saying about, Esau deceiving the people into supporting the wrong side over the righteous side. And, as he was talking, I actually thought of a video that I had posted, just a short clip. I don't know if we're able to play it. Is it possible to share it?
Yeah, you will have to share it. Can you share it from your end? You see where it says,
I can
yeah,
share
you got it. Okay.
All right.
So,
Just let me know if you can hear it.
Africa is a treaty
Got
member of the International Criminal Court. If Putin comes here in August as planned, your government will be obliged to arrest him. As head of the ANC, do you believe your government should and indeed will arrest Vladimir Putin?
If it was according to the ANC, we will want President Putin to be here even tomorrow.
You would?
To come to our country. But
you would welcome Vladimir Putin here right now?
Of course, we will welcome.
A man who is being investigated for war crimes by the International Criminal Court.
We will welcome him to come here as part and parcel of BRICS, but we know that we are constrained by the ICC in terms of doing that. Putin is a head of state. Do you think that a head of state can just be arrested anywhere? How many crimes have your country committed in Iraq? How many crimes have everyone else who's so vocal today committed in Iraq and Afghanistan? Have you arrested them? You have not.
You know the impact that
You're
this stand
making
of
a
yours...
lot of noise about putting in state of working for peace between Ukraine and Russia, and you failed to resolve the war. Where are the weapons of mass destruction? Tony Blair went to Iraq and claimed that there are weapons of mass destruction. Did you see anybody standing against that in the United Kingdom and Britain? More than millions of people have died in Iraq and Afghanistan, and there are no weapons of mass destruction. We know what the war is about.
Mr. Secretary General,
between Russia and Ukraine. We want peace. That's what.
Yeah, and that's the shame, in his eyes right there. And this is something that, these Edomites, they like to do very often. They spin the narrative, and it's so obvious, right? But people don't really understand how wicked they really are. And, people mistake Esau's, his drive to keep peace as the best interest of the people. But really what he's saying, like even Zaquan, you said it, is they're controlling. They're increasing control, and they want to maintain the system that allows them to be wicked. That's why all these things come out. And I always keep bringing out these Epstein files because these men were fucking wicked over there. And even all the things that they do is very wicked. That's all they do constantly, wickedness. And the system that they have created, that's in place right now, allows them to do it with impunity. And people are just out here, and they, when news like this come out, they look at Yahweh Shai coming in, and they say, oh, he has no authority over it. He ain't supposed to be over here. We don't welcome him. And that is a narrative that Esau pushed on them. But when you actually, go into it and you open your mind and you quicken your spirit, right, from being a dead state into a living being, then you truly see the world for what it really is. And that this man is really wicked, and on the point that, you've been brought out, Zaquan, is that the Lord has taken, he stopped them from really seeing the truth, right, because of their wickedness. And even in the book of Job, I have here the 37th chapter, it talks about how sometimes one of the Lord's judgment is that when he kills you, he makes sure you die without knowledge. And that's part of the judgment also. So we're really seeing the works of the Lord being made, fruitful, whether people like it or not. And the idea that Esau is the righteous man is just so ridiculous that when they finally get resurrected in the kingdom, I'm wondering, like, yo, how are they gonna react when they actually find out that they were actually on this devil's side? Really gonna be it's gonna be amazing to witness the reaction of these heathens. But yeah, all the movies that they show you, it's all about the protagonist maintaining a world that's wicked. The protagonist want to change it. He sees 9 times out of 10, he's actually, you're right, because he's very reasonable. He actually wants vengeance. That's what it is. He wants vengeance and justice, but nobody's giving it to him. They're telling him, "Oh, forget about the past and heal." No, fuck that. Nobody want that shit. You let me do it to you, and then you show me how it is to heal and forget about it. And that's what these Edomites want to do. They want you to forget about it and praise him and be, oh yeah. Because I see Edomites and podcasts and all these things, and I hear and they talk about how good colonization is and the conquest and the slavery is because they brought education. Like they invented education. They throw all these kind of stupid shit around just so to justify what they did to us, so that we will say, oh, okay, well, I guess we can heal from it. As long as he gave us this, we can heal for it. He gives us subsidies, food stamps for blood. He kills millions of people, and then he gives food stamps, and then that's supposed to be okay? Yo, and you people are out of your goddamn minds, man, for supporting Esau, and that's why Yahushai is going to have to deal with you too, just like he does with him, right? That's why Yahushai made no distinction. Ye are your father, the devil. And whatsoever just like he is, you are, because you are indifferent from, you are so caught up, you have your head so far up his ass that you can't even hear anything else anybody is saying, So that's it on that.
Yeah. Oh, you got something? Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, I got a quick precept here on what you were mentioning, Ayash, because going back to Esau's deception, I forgot who said it, but they said you tell a big enough lie often enough, people will start to believe that it is true, right? And that's what Esau does. So changing the world upside down mainly heavily through the Renaissance period, right? It's interesting that they called it, of all names and titles, they gave it the rebirth, right? The Renaissance period. And when you look at how the world changed through then, really things that were coded as new inventions and new ways to go about. When in Granada, Spain, you had Edomites that came up into power and they took over everything the Moors, which were Israelites, had done and advanced, and then they called it theirs. They started whitewashing everything, and then they said, "Look at all the things we've done." No, it's not all the things you've done. When you read about the history, they said that there were certain places in Europe where the Edomites dwelt, where the streets that you would walk in was like you would be damn near close to knees deep in feces. Like it was just garbage and disgusting everywhere in their area. And they came up into power, and then they used deception to say, look at all the things we've done and how advanced of a civilization we are. But the main thing they've done is they have deceived the world to hate the Lord. And the scriptures say, which I have it here, Proverbs 8, and I actually start at 34. It says, blessed is the man that heareth me, watching daily at my gates, waiting at the posts of my doors. For whosoever findeth me findeth life, and shall obtain favor of the Lord. But he that sinneth against me wrongeth his own soul. All they that hate me love death. See, so what he has done is he has controlled the minds of people, and especially by playing on irrational behaviors, right? They're human tendencies that are 100% irrational. There's actually a whole book on it, and marketers and so on and so forth, they use that to control people's minds. Esau has found what makes you tick. He experiments on people, and he finds those little nooks and crannies, and then he spins it, you know what I'm saying? And he uses it in a way where he can quite literally mind control people to hate the Lord and eventually breed a world of death. If you want to know how to fix most of the problems in this world today, revert back to what the Lord put in the scriptures as to what you should and shouldn't do. If you look at what the Lord said you shouldn't do, and you look at what's permitted in today's society, you'll see these two parallels that are really one line. And that's what's causing all of this here. So really, the Lord allowing the world to get like this was giving us the answer to the why, right? He told us, do this, don't do this, don't do this. But Jake wants to know why. You're curious. You want to find out why? This captivity is the why you shouldn't disobey the Lord. And by the time we get to the kingdom, because that's the one, you know how they say the 5 W's, the who, what, when, where, why. By the time we get to the kingdom, we're going to have all 5, like the infinity stones. And the why is the most important, because the why is what brings understanding. You can tell somebody what, who, when, where, but if they don't understand why, that's why when you speak about why, it's mainly understand. That's the question. Oh, why this? Why that? Why this? And once you tell them, they react, oh, okay, I see why, or I understand why. So when we get to the kingdom, we're going to know exactly why you shouldn't be committing adultery, why you should be implementing this, why you should be implementing that. And in that case, we won't go off anymore because there's nothing to be curious about. The gravest form of wickedness that even King Solomon was curious about, we've experienced here, and we see that we hate it. So we don't want to come to this side anymore. So in the kingdom, we're going to be grateful to the Lord that we cannot even cross back over to this side. And every time we see Esau Edom, we're going to remember the why and the wickedness that he has done, and he's going to pay for that vengeance. And every time he sees us, he's going to know exactly what we're thinking, and he's going to be in even more trouble. When we speak about the good things, we're going to remember the bad. And when we remember the bad, them Edomites around us are going to remember the bad too. Yeah, you guys got. I mean, you guys are quiet. I think you guys see that.
I think
Yeah, and I was just wanted to bring out this precept here in Isaiah 28, verse I'll start at 12, and I'll probably jump. It says, to whom he said, this is the rest wherewith ye may cause the weary to rest. And this is the refreshing, yet they would not hear. Right. And this is why the Lord, has constantly through his spirit and power, put the spirit into the prophets' mouths to constantly been given this message, right? It's the same rhetoric, it's the same message over and over and over again, even from before this age, to Israel to repent, to seek the Lord, to leave off from your iniquity, because the wrath of the Lord is going to come, right? Zephaniah, the 2nd chapter, the Lord is merciful and he's compassionate and he's long suffering, because he is allowing a time frame, right? Before the hell comes, there is a long time frame, a buffer zone of a compassion. And the Lord uses this buffer zone to send his prophets out to tell you to repent, to tell you to turn back, to tell you to leave off from the following the ways of the wicked, the ways of the heathen. You see, all of our transgressions from the beginning was all tied to what? Following the heathen's ways, following that's why the laws, brothers always mention, a lot, if not majority of the laws are literally a direct, don't do this because this is what the heathens are doing. This is what they were doing in Egypt. This is what the Lord hates, because the scriptures tells you that the Lord did not give his word to the nations, right? He showed up his word unto Jacob. He showed up his word unto Jacob, and his statutes and his judgments unto Israel. With the other nations, he has not dealt so. So they're living a way that, which is why they're known as beasts. They're living a way that is just unruly. But the Lord gave us the knowledge of life, gave us the fountain of wisdom, which starts with his fear. And when you fear the Lord, you do what? You keep his commandments to the best of your ability, even though we can't, which is why Yahweh sent Yahushai, so that we can have, just the faith in the Lord, and Yahushai covers us. But you have our people that don't want to hearken unto that. And yet they still complain about the conditions of the world, right? They want to complain about Trump, then they complain about Biden, they complain about this, but they don't want to actually change. They still want to stay in Egypt. It's like Jake was crying, and it happened in Egypt, right? They were complaining, sighing, crying because of the labor. Then the Lord sent a deliverer, and they're like, nah, we want to stay in Egypt. So you just want to stay in Egypt and complain. And that's the worst thing. That's the worst type of nigga. Like, you don't want to, you want to complain, but not change the situation, or not even desire to change the situation. You see? But our people have become homeborn slaves. And the Lord is not coming, to redeem that type of mentality. He's coming to redeem those that, as the disciples actually, Hawashai, are you going to restore the kingdom back into Israel? Because that's when Israel gets the kingdom through Yahushua, the earth is at rest, everything is at peace. The weary and everything is in order. But reading on, it says, but the word of the Lord was unto them precept upon precept, precept upon precept, line upon line upon line, here a little and there a little, that they might go and fall backward and be broken and snared and taken. You see, and this is the mindset that our people have. Oh, you can keep bringing out the same scriptures. Yeah, all you need is the same. All you need is the scriptures. You don't need something else. You don't need. The scriptures tells you that none shall want her mate. But Jake want to go into the book of the dead. They want to try to find the book of Jasper and all these other books. But here it is. They can't even follow what you know is the word of the Lord, right? So it says, "Wherefore hear the word, O Salakia. Wherefore hear the word of the Lord, ye scornful men that rule this people which is in Jerusalem, because ye have said, we have made a covenant with death, and with hell we are at agreement. When the overflowing scourge shall pass through, it shall not come unto us. For we have made lies our refuge, and under falsehood we have hid ourselves." And that's the trap, and that's the snare that these people are about to find themselves in, because they think that being assimilated, right? Even the northern tribe, right? Being assimilated into America and trying to be a upstanding, or not to say they shouldn't be a good quote unquote citizen, but your mind frame and your spirit is to be accepted into this society. Well, in order to be accepted into this society and to be assimilated, you have to ask yourself, what are the values and the standards that this society upholds, right? What are the things that this society deems good? And when you look at that, you see that it's everything that goes against the righteousness of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua. It literally is adverse to the Lord. And the Lord used the basis of man, right? The worst of the heathen, to be at the top and then put out this mindset of this is what is Trump was talking about when he cursed out the nigger woman ABC anchor. He was like, our nation represents perfectness and beauty and clean. He said you may know what dirt is, but I don't. I don't know what dirt. I'm like, there's literally a whole bunch of information on him having very bad odor. Like they said that his odor is like horrendous. But here it is. He can say that, oh, you may know what dirt is, but I don't. But you see, when people look at these people, they look at them because they're on top right now. They got money. And that's what to them, oh, that means that they are, they're wise or they're successful, all these things. But the mindset that they carry is filth. The mindset that they carry is satanic. And then when you make your alignment with them, you're thinking, oh, I'm gonna bypass the scourge, the overflowing scourge that's gonna come. But you making a covenant with death. You can't bypass death by making a covenant with death. The Lord said, I think you read it, I don't know if you did, Bakar, that all they that hate me love death. And you show that you hate the Lord by aligning yourself with this world. Did not James say, he that is an enemy, he that is a friend to this world is an enemy to the Most High? So how can you be both? How can you uphold this world and think that something in this life is to be, valued, but at the same time say that you actually, love the God of the Bible? But whatever God you're talking about is not the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. When this is what we're here to tell you. Yeah, but that's it.
I've got a precept, and a homeborn slave is like, it's really bad. That's like no ambition, born into it, all you ever will know, but you don't know how miserable that even is to you. Like if someone was free and was captured and put into slavery, at least he yearns for freedom, But a homeborn slave is just a whole different tier, But I have here in the book of Job, chapter 38, verse 6, it says, "He preserveth not the life of the wicked, but giveth right to the poor. He withdraweth not his eyes from the righteous, but with kings are they on thrones. Yea, he doth establish them forever, and they are exalted. And if they be bound in fetters and holden in cords of affliction, then he showeth them their work and their transgression, that they have exceeded." So, according to your point, how the Lord is put us here, so we may know the why, so we are learning all these things so that we understand what the true judgment of the Lord really truly is. It says, If they be bound in fetters, captivity, and be holden in course of affliction, then he showeth them their works and their transgression that they have exceeded. He openeth their ear to discipline, and commandeth that they return from iniquity. And if they obey and serve him, they shall spend their days in prosperity and their years in pleasures. Right. So this is pretty much a precept to back up your point. But hey, man, love death and making covenant with death. Death is what's the worst form of, I don't know, but I don't know if brothers can help me out here, but with someone that's like difficult to bargain with, like whatever you say, they ain't like stubborn. In other words, it does not discriminate. You cannot, when death is coming, you can't tell death you turn your ass back or go to someone else. Nah, death is not like it. It does not. When it's coming for your ass, you are dead. That's it. Ain't no way around it unless the Lord really is with you. So that's pretty much a precept that I wanted to bring out. Brothers got it. Non-negotiable. Yeah, Thwada Ashia. Death is non-negotiable.
That's a lesson right there. Hey, but for us through Yahushua, we don't got to negotiate with death. That's the beauty of the Lord having, the keys to hell and death. You see, because Yahushua defeated death, and this is the times, right? The hell on earth and the things that we're going to be, through the spirit and power of Yahushua, those that the Lord has, destined to survive and endure into the end and not taste of death. They're going to be in the midst of death, just like how the three holy children was in fire. That fire was supposed to be death to them. They were supposed to die there, but yet it wasn't even a thought, right? Once they was there, it wasn't even a thought like, oh, we're going to die. They knew at that point, like, yo, I think there was a scripture. Let me go to it real quick. And the three, where is it at? Prayer of Azariah. 1:66. It says, O Ananias, O Azarias, O Misael, bless ye the Lord, praise and exalt him above all forever. For he hath delivered us from hell and saved us from the hand of death, and delivered us out of the midst of the furnace and burning flame, even out of the midst of the fire hath he delivered us. See, and this is, really a prelude to what the Lord is going to do for us, literally, right? Us being delivered out, was that Zechariah 13:8, that the third part shall be taken up out of the fire. That's what the Lord is going to do for us. America is going to be turned into a furnace, and he is going to deliver us out of the fire. Okay, but even before that, the hell, the different calamities, the viruses, the sword, all these different things is going to be death, right? I believe in Psalms 91, it tells you that it shall not come nigh into our dwelling, right? 10,000 fall at thy side, 1,000 at thy right hand, 10,000 at thy side. If it shall not come nigh unto thee, what is not going to come nigh unto thee? Death. So hell is what is hell associated with? It's the grave. What is the grave associated with death? Which is why you see hell and death always synonymous in the scriptures. I believe also in Revelation 6, I had this queued up, so let me just pull it. Revelation 6 and 8, it says, and I looked and beheld a pale horse, and his name that sat on him was Death, and hell followed with him. Now, who is this also synonymous with? Esau. Because in Habakkuk, it said he has large himself as the hell and as death, and he cannot be satisfied. Right? So this spirit that Esau brings is the spirit of death. And it's in every form or fashion that you see it, it's there. Right? The foods, I just seen something popped up where you had I think it's phosphorite in certain foods, which is known to cause it's like a poison that they're putting in food that can cause, cancer. And these foods, the way that they market it, they use certain colors, whether it be yellow or red, which, pops out to, kids. And then you have the kids, well, mommy, I want this. And they have a little cartoon to make it all funny and all that. But really, what are they actually serving you? It's literally death. They're serving you poison, but it makes it, appear to be something that is harmless. So He presents death in every fashion, everything. We talk about the water and plastic, and the list goes on and on and on. But then here it is. They'll talk about the quote unquote UFOs as being right an international threat. Nigga, you are the international threat. You are the threat. That's why you have a lot of people that make a joke, but is it really a joke? They say, oh, I just want the aliens to come and take me. Yo, come take me out of here. Beam me up. Get me off of this rock. Why are you saying that? It's because who you got ruling right now. You got the man of sin, the son of perdition ruling. So they want to be taken away from his thumb. But reading back, it says, and power was given unto them over the fourth part of the earth, which is Babylon, America, to kill the sword and with hunger and with death and with the beasts of the earth. And that's what, you see the sword, right? The wars. You see the hunger they talking about. When you go into that word hunger here, it says a scarcity of food. So that's already taken place with the whole fertilization shortage, right? The uptick in the prices of food. They locking up food. People taking videos of going to the grocery store and seeing a pack of ground beef for $55. And he's like, yo, what is this? They don't even consider even buying it because it's like, yo, there's no reason to buy this right now. But yet, here it is. This Trump and not even him, but the Esau in general, they'll boast about, we got the greatest nation on the earth. This devil said, Trump said his old IRA 401k thing that he's making. He said, about time a 21-year-old gets to 65, they'll have $465,000 in their account. And he was like, in other words, they'll be rich. And I'm like, yo, imagine if I was like, this devil dropped all his money down to $465,000. Would you consider yourself rich, nigga? No. He'll probably kill himself. And in 40 years, right, from 21 to 65, for 44 years, how much money you think $465,000 is going to be worth? You can't even buy a house right now, and with that much amount of money. So how are you going to say that they're rich? But this is how this devil plays on the minds of the people, man. Because they know, like, oh, they hear hundreds of thousands, they think of that being rich. You see? But yeah, that's all I had for that. Any brother got any last precepts?
Oh no, I'm getting no pre.
Now you guys want to say?
Oh, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, yeah, they have this habit of, telling people to embrace hell, right? Like I think the video that you sent with the dude when he lost his Bitcoin, he had all millions of dollars. He lost his password to his Bitcoin, and the dude he's crying like a little child, grown ass man, Edomite, but if Jake was to come up and say, oh man, I'm living in hell, America's hell on to me, I don't got shit. He gonna tell him, nah, bro, pick yourself up, your bootstrap. Gonna say some dumb shit like that. They're unsympathetic to the poor people, but if they should ever be poor, it is the worst thing that they could ever endure. And it's like, everybody should hear their story because they are poor, they don't have anything. But if they had it and people were poor and people said, yo, we're poor, be righteous, they couldn't give a shit, And that's the hypocrisy that scripture talks about. He pretends, but when you dig deeper, like even Yahushua said, he said, sometimes if he said to I forgot which specific church, but when they find out the liars, when you probe and you go into the word of the Lord and you're able to discern someone's true character, he counts it as a good thing. We ought to have that ability. And the scriptures, coupled with the spirit that allows us to receive the scriptures, allows us, why it gives us the ability to really discern this man's spirit and see who he truly is when others just can't. And that's pretty much it on that.
Yeah, I just wanted to bring this out because, for those of you out there watching of the Household of Faith, you know that we bring out these prophetic videos and these prophetic lessons about hell and destruction and these things. And that is to instill fear in you so that you can fear the Lord and come into the strong tower of protection, which is his name. Not for you to just be paralyzed by fear, but the fear of the Lord is supposed to inspire you and move you to have a certain conduct. Okay. So we don't just talk about these things just as, leave you with no hope. All right. There is hope, and the hope is in Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua, but we have to mention these things. All right. And this is all a part of our hope, because seeing these signs is a part of it, is all a part of the signs of his return. But I got this right here. All right. Job 5:19. He shall deliver thee in 6 troubles, yea, in 7 there shall no evil touch thee. Okay. So, 7 represents what? Completion. So, complete deliverance from the evil times to come. So, no matter what they're doing, you don't see us panicking. And the fact that you see our demeanor and the character that the Lord instilled in us and the faith that the Lord instilled in us, that should inspire faith within you that are watching, because we know about these judgments. We know about these calamities that are coming, but we're not afraid of them because our fear is directed towards the Lord, man. All right. Job 5:20. In famine he shall redeem thee from death, and in war from the power of the sword. And is that not things that's been spoken about in this lesson and other lessons? Okay. And famine will be redeemed from death. All right. The Lord's servants will eat. So we're not panicking. We're not over here trying to doomsday prep, you know? Not to say if brothers can't go and get some extra food. I mean, that's wisdom at the end of the day. But for many of us, that won't be possible. So what do we have to do? Trust in the Lord. All right. It says here, thou shalt be hid from the scourge of the tongue, neither shalt thou be afraid of destruction when it cometh. You see? So we're not afraid. All of the things, the lies that we said that they're going to aim at us, we're not afraid of those things because we know the Lord has us, man. So what it turns to is us reflecting on our own actions instead of saying, oh, man, look what Esau's doing. Look what the white man is doing. We look at ourselves and examine ourselves to say, man, how can I be more on point to serve the Lord? Because that's going to be what defines whether we make it or not, is whether we were sincere in our service to Yahweh Hashem Yahushua. Ultimately, it's through election, all right, and faith, but faith without works is dead. So we examine ourselves so that Lord's will, when that day comes, that we can be taken up. Because yes, it is by faith, all right, and it is by selection from on high, but with all those things, there will be actions that comes with it. So we examine ourselves to see whether we be Lord's will of that number. All right, and this is the last verse, and I'll pass it. Job 5:22, at destruction and famine thou shalt laugh, neither shall thou be afraid of the beasts of the earth. You see, destruction and famine thou shalt laugh. You see us joking and jesting about what's going on because it doesn't instill fear in us. What Esau's doing, the Lord gave us such a beautiful gift of faith to where we know that thermonuclear missiles, the greatest destruction that's ever been witnessed, is about to come on the land that we live on. All right. We currently live on this land in America, Babylon the Great, and we know that destruction is coming, and we joke and we laugh about it. All right. Not saying that we make light of the judgment of the Lord, but we can do that because we know that the joke is going to be on these people. All right. And not on the Lord's elect, the ones that are faithful towards him. And we pray and hope for that mercy, and we pray and hope for that deliverance, because that's really all we have at the end of the day. But that's it.
Hey, Khan, beautiful. So, that will close it out, Lord willing. This is edifying unto the elect. In closing, we want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushai, Bahashem, Ruach HaKodesh. And until next time, shalom unto the elect.